The other day I came across the post about homesteading, and many thousands of people had reacted positively to the post. But what I was not expecting was 28 of my friends to react positively to the post. So I commented on the post and I attacked the post, and I went through a little bit of theory, not too much. And then it got 80 or 90 replies of people attacking me. Now I was furious and pissed off with all these people because they don't know that it is a fascist fantasy and a fascist pastime. And really quickly, I just want to walk through why it is a fascist fantasy and why so many anarchists are drawn to this, why they are deceived into wanting this for themselves. And before I go on the attack, I will say that it is understandable to want to escape and get away from the violence that's going on. That's understandable. It's the wrong path, but it's understandable. And I will also say that there is some good work being done in North America by anarchists. There is lots of soup kitchens and various things of feeding people. That's objectively good. In Canada and the US, they had massive propaganda campaigns telling people to come to the New World, that this land is just free and prosperous and ripe for them to make their way on this brave new frontier. This frontier of uninhabited land that is just prosperous for these settler colonists to thrive. So that was going on before the federation of either of these nation states. It continued to go on as the nation states had developed. Now, the origin of homesteading is the state taking indigenous land, directly taking it away, and then after that, turning that stolen land from a state-owned commodity to private citizens. This is part and parcel with settler colonialism. This theft and this process is one of the many ways that the state, not just the state, but the people who own it, the capitalists, this is one of the ways that they work very, very in a determined way to turn the occupying settler colonists against indigenous people. They directly pit them against each other. This is not just the divide and conquer tactic. This is directly giving settler colonists material interest to benefit at the direct expense of indigenous peoples. Now, there's many reasons that homesteading appeals to fascists, but one of the biggest reasons is that the men who do this benefit greatly. They get a wife, they get a family, they get productive power, they have a farm, they are able to pursue their own interests. But like women under patriarchy and capitalist society, women do not have economic agency, they do not have economic power, and therefore they have very little political power. The lack of political and economic power greatly endangers them and puts them in an incredibly precarious position. This is why it's always men who are the loudest to be fantasizing about this homesteading fantasy. And one of the reasons that it would appeal to women is that it entails this awful capitalist determination where, under these very patriarchal and outdated ways of thinking, women are not told to pursue anything, nothing, not an education, not a high-paying job, not their own interests, not seeing the world, not hobbies. They're not encouraged to do anything except to start a family. And naturally, this family unit is very isolating, and it removes their autonomy largely. Obviously, this is due to because the unrelenting demands of unpaid domestic work is a huge burden, and there is not social programs to reduce their burden. So, when women have families, they end up not having nearly the degree of agency that they used to have, and they end up largely in massive long term commitments, unpaid commitments to these men. Homesteading is really scary though, because there is a significant history in the US of cults actually using this to attain tax exemption. And we all know that cults are the most ripe places for abuse and injustice. So why do so many anarchists have an appreciation or a desire for homesteading when it is explicitly a fascist tendency and history? This immediately reveals the lack of strength in the theory of anarchists and the lack of history. Fascists and anarchists are united in their hatred by the state. Anything that would let you unite with a fascist is incredibly dangerous. In their case, they hate the state because there are taxes, that's it, and labor laws, and things that inconvenience them personally, but their masters, their capitalists, their lobbyists, they're people who have taught them to think, to shit and piss on command. Now, anarchists hate the state for a good reason, which is that it is an unjust, hierarchical, violent system of oppression, and it protects capitalism. But the state is just a tool. It's not the be-all, end-all. It is not what creates oppression. It is the face of oppression. It is what we experience oppression from, but it does not drive it. It is only the vehicle. Marxism versus anarchism would be a much, much, much longer video. I'm not even going to remotely get into that. But with fascists hating the state because of taxes and regulations, with anarchists hating the state because it has police and prisons and injustice, and the ruling class wields autonomy against them, there isn't a great deal of theory as to what to do. There is just a hatred towards the state. So without a comprehensive volume of theory, there is just infinite grounds for manipulation and propaganda and people not being able to go about in a good way. So these fascists are very easily able to convince anarchists that taxes are so bad and so evil, and that you're fighting the power by being resentful towards taxes. Yesterday, I was really resentful. I saw one American friend share a meme, and the meme said that for Christmas or for something, all they want is their gross pay. They weren't, so it's just complaining about taxes, that's it. And it revealed immediately a lack of theory, a lack of wanting more for others. Because with socialism, you don't just have the full value of your labor. You also have the more important thing than the value of your labor. You have economic agency, you have political agency, you have power to actually make changes in your workplace. It is no longer a reflection of the capitalist dictatorship. You and your coworkers have the power to determine your own agency, your own political autonomy. It means there will be an end immediately to abusive managers driving coworkers away. It will lead to the end of harassment. It will lead to the end of being understaffed. It will lead to the end of abuse in the workplace. That's why I was so resentful when I saw that. Endlessly, we see this pushing, pushing, and pushing to lead people to be libertarians, to be self-interested, to want nothing more for anyone except themselves. This is why homesteaders and anarchists are so easily able to become pushed into wanting that, to want to escape it all, to have their own land for themselves, for their own interests. And that's why it is wrong. The primary contradiction of this land, of this continent, is not class relations with capitalism. Primary contradiction is settler colonialism, where the settler colonists of Britain and France exterminated the locals and then colonized the land and occupied it. This is an ongoing thing. If you deny this, you are denying the material conditions of this land. This is not to say that these people have to go. They don't have to go anywhere. The only thing that has to change is the political relationship that we have, where right now the relationship of the state is directly disenfranchising us and taking our resources. This disenfranchisement and taking of our political economy, of our political power too, is explicitly genocide. It is explicit in UNDRIP that we are experiencing many different forms of genocide, and this is the problem of this land. This is another thing that a lot of anarchists make a mistake with. They prop up and buy into this pseudo-spiritual bullshit, which has a lot of Nazi stuff within it. And they say, we're all one, brah. We're all one race. And while we are one race, biologically, politically, we are not at all. Politically, we are a massive conglomerate of different peoples, with different histories, with different cultures, with different realities and different experiences. And I witness it over and over and over again, these guys. They always say things like that we are all one race, or that they hate all sides, or that things are not as they are. They are so quick to deny the material conditions of colonized peoples. This is a fundamental aspect of white supremacy, to distort and to hide the true history and the true things as they are. Now, if you want to hate homesteading, you can take a very brief look at why it is popular among people. And you can see that it is popular with Texans. Texans undergo the most comprehensive brainwashing, the most nationalist, anti-indigenous, and frankly garbage Nazi propaganda out of anybody in the United States, hands down. There is endless propaganda from oil corporations directly about the Wild West, about the freedom, about all this hogwash. So much bullshit about cowboys, about fighting the law, about not paying taxes, about making it on your own, about going out to be an opportunistic gold rush person, etc., etc. Now, look at Oregon. Oregon is the most racist state, arguably, in the US. It is full of wooks, it is full of Nazis, it is full of crunchy fucking white dreadlock having people and hippies. It's loaded with them. Now, why are these two places so full of people who want to homestead? These are questions to ask. Whenever you have something that aligns you with an enemy, it is a really good time to take a look and examine why. I hope this video helps you hate homesteading. Not as much as me, but nearly as much as me. It's really critical too to hate libertarianism, to hate the selfish pursuit of pursuing what you want while everyone else is suffering, to pursue your ambition on stolen land, to forsake all colonized peoples domestically and internationally. It is unjust and it is heinous to seek out your slice of the pie, to put your head in the sand, to forsake the people internationally right now who do not have the same privilege and safety that we do. I don't want to end this video on a bad note, so instead of just talking about the things that are wrong, I will add what our path forward is. Our path forward is not having gardens and giving away food to people and thinking that we will solve all the issues that we have with this. We can run thousands of community gardens. We can give away as much food as we want, but it will not change our state's relationship to other nations. It will not stop our spy agencies from producing propaganda and destroying other countries. It will not stop countries from being overthrown. It will not stop countries from having their resources expropriated by our ruling class. There was a meme that talked about this anarchist desire to grow horizontal networks to break the independence on the system. And that is complete nonsense. This is why anarchist theory is so popular in the West, because it doesn't functionally allow the vanguard to develop. It doesn't allow a vanguard to overthrow the state. It doesn't allow long-term egalitarian progress. It doesn't allow a revolution to be sustained. Whereas in other countries, it has been for decades and decades and decades, and they've made amazing progress. So our solution is not charity. Our solution is to study the material theory that has worked and led revolutions. It is to study Leninism. It is to study each different revolutionary that has added to it and contributed to it and added their own experiences, their own history to the theory. We are to study these. We are to apply these. We are to contribute, to add to it, and to continue building egalitarian progress with this. With this theory, we can build the vanguard. We can build a group of people who are committed revolutionaries. After that, you continue to build, you continue to help, you continue to build a movement until you have the support of the masses. Once you have the support of the masses, you can aim to violently overthrow the state, to destroy the dictatorship of capital, and to establish a proletarian government. And those are still only the first steps. The real challenge is afterwards, when you have your governing proletarian party led by theory. You have them who are then left to analyze all the material conditions of the people, all the violence that has been sustained, all the colonial trauma, all the replications of hierarchies that lead people to perpetuate suffering and injustice. You then have to work to undo not decades, but centuries of injustice, centuries of this entrenched violence. Sorry for being so grumpy. It gets incredibly frustrating to be dealing with this. Love and solidarity. All power to the people.